The Stars and Stripes show is brought to you by the U.S. Embassy.
It's Gabs FM, powered to engage your world. Welcome to the Stars and Stripes show. Hope you're having a fantastic day. And let me tell you something. Please be decent in the Black Friday run, I suppose. Well, welcome to the show. Today we're talking gender-based violence. Now, here's an interesting fact. Types of violence and their causes: physical violence, psychological violence. Your mental health is an important component of your everyday life. Sexual violence, economic violence, symbolic violence, and of course, gender-based violence. And these are some of the discussions that we have to have in the building. And today I'm speaking to Rep. Paul Motsome, CDC Public Health Specialist. Welcome to the show, sir. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm fine, sir.
Complaining doesn't pay my bills. How was your week?
Excellent. So
hey, Black Friday,
nothing yet.
And of course, we have Tabile Selema, who's the Dreams and Prep Senior Case Manager. How are you, Tabile?
I'm very good, Swift. How are you doing?
Can't complain. How was your week?
Slow.
Slow?
A bit slow.
Why slow?
Work items, you know.
Work items. You don't have to tell me twice. Ephraim, how was your week? Welcome to the show. I must also have and say hello to you.
Thank you, Swift. My week was great. It was wonderful.
How's the farm?
So far so good.
Okay. All right. Well, kings and queens, today we're having an important conversation: gender-based violence. Whether you like it or not, you're either infected or affected. You know, one thing that I've done on a number of different shows to the both of you, you know, the gender-based violence conversation, in my personal opinion, creates a lot of what I call gender divide. There's one side that says physically we are abused, we are victimized, and there's one side that says, you know what, emotionally we are abused and we are not heard. So today I'd like us to bring those two worlds together and say, look, let's have a conversation and encourage, number one, the importance of bringing both genders together. I always say the more you ignore the girl child or the boy child, you actually hurt the girl child. Whether we like it or not, we're in the same boat that is called humanity, and we need to move it forward. Do you guys agree?
I most definitely do.
True.
I love that. Now, moving along. Mr. Paul, let's talk. What are some of the medical interventions do you give for post-gender-based violence victims?
Thank you for the question, Swift. Well, to answer you, I'll just give a brief background, just to say that gender-based violence, you will know that, like you pointed out earlier, can be due to physical violence, sexual violence, psychological and emotional. So the kind of medical interventions that we give generally would be informed by the presentation that we have in the health facility.
Okay.
And the most common type of gender-based violence that I'm going to refer to here, it's the physical and the sexual violence.
Okay.
Which is the most common. For example, WHO says that 1 in 3 women have been reported to have experienced some kind of physical and sexual violence in their lifetime. And similarly in Botswana, we're not doing so well. More than 60% of women report to have experienced some form of sexual or physical violence in their lifetime. So you can see that the most type of GBV that presents in our health facilities would be sexual and physical. I'm not saying that other types of GBVs are not prevalent. They are occurring, but those that we find in our facilities generally would be physical and sexual. So in terms of the medical interventions that we give, they are 3-layered.
Okay.
Or multi-layered, should I say. Not necessarily 3-layered. Multi-layered, and they are interrelated. So the first one would be to provide post-exposure prophylaxis, which is a medical intervention where we give ARV medication to prevent the victim from getting infected with HIV in the event that the perpetrator is HIV positive. And then that will be followed or goes hand in hand with a complete physical exam. That is to investigate the trauma, the extent of the trauma. In the event where there are cuts, abrasions or bruises, the doctor, they will do all that physical exam and go on to do collect some swabs and blood samples, and then run a number of tests. Among those tests would be pregnancy test, STI test, to check if the person has or the victim has gotten infected with those STIs.
Okay.
And then just to conclude to say that in addition to that, a number of post-exposure interventions are done, such as giving emergency contraceptives to prevent unwanted pregnancy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and also to give psychosocial support. The doctor, they will have to initiate counseling, where they're going to link the victim with mental health support as well as psychosocial support. And most importantly, the doctor will also have to assist in terms of linking the victim with the law enforcement officers. One of those things that I know that are common is to complete the police form.
Yes.
So that the victim can go and present it at the police station. So in a nutshell, that will be the multi-layered and interrelated interventions that we do in the for medical intervention. Like I said, the first one would be PrEP and the physical exam, and the second layer would be psychosocial support and mental health support, and then the third one will be the law enforcement aspect of it. Of course, like you said, you'll find that there are other areas such as economic. Those are some of the things that the social workers and psychologists will chip in to link the victim with. So basically, that's the interventions that we give.
Absolutely. You know, it's Gabs FM, power to engage your world. And if you've just joined us, welcome to the Stars and Stripes show, proudly brought to you by the U.S. Embassy in partnership with Gabs FM. And thank you, sir. You're outlining a lot of the cure strategies. Tabile, let me bring you into the conversation, and let's talk about, before I introduce you and obviously your line of questioning, talk to me about prevention strategy. You're a woman. Outside of the hat that you're wearing today on the show, you live this life. You understand gender-based violence as a woman that walks the streets of Gaborone and lives everyday life, Botswana. Talk to us what you think, as a foot soldier on the ground, some of the prevention strategies that we should always be thinking about. Because I find that when we have this gender-based violence conversation, we are focused on cure strategy. And what are we doing to prevent, in your opinion?
Okay, that's a very good question that you have there, Swift. So as a woman, I would say there's a lot of things that I have to employ, especially, let's say, for example, I'm going out with my friends for a night out. I try to pay extra attention to like how I leave my drinks. Do I leave them unattended, you know? We know people are getting spiked out there.
Yes.
And people are, end up taking advantage of you.
Yes.
You find yourself waking up in a random place that
Yes.
you know, what am I doing here? So happy I try not to go out with for example, I know what in this area, social media and so on and so forth, you're most likely to just meet a stranger online and then you can have a date or whatever.
Absolutely.
So I try to avoid having those kind of interactions, saying, look, I'm going out with somebody to a private place. I'd rather choose a public place, so that I know what there's all eyes on us should anything happen.
Yes, absolutely.
So those are some of the things that I would employ just so that I can keep myself extra safe. I shouldn't have to, but the reality is that it's happening,
You know, I'm a father of a boy child and a girl child. So this conversation is so important to me as Motsadi to say I'm raising a girl child, I'm raising a boy child. And you know, one thing that I understand in Scandinavian countries is that they introduce a topic in the education system called empathy. It's a simple class where you're uruta bana to become empathetic towards each other. You know, I've been married about 9 years and I've realized that, and we also need to engage in premarital, counseling on a serious level. Because whether we like it or not, look at it this way. COVID-19 statistics were showing that borre were losing their lives due to becoming the breadwinners, etc., right? A lot of economic and financial stress is on males. Not to say that women do not experience it, not to say that we're ignoring the single mother. But these are conversations that from a prevention point of view, we need to have Bana Barone in the classroom discussing empathetic issues, discussing communication. Because, to unlearn what you've been socialized is a difficult task.
Definitely.
But hey, that's the gender-based violence conversation. Look, let's talk about your organization. I didn't mention it because I don't know how to pronounce it. So, what is the name of your organization, and what is the mandate?
Okay, it's Botswana University of Maryland School of Medicine Health Initiative, also known as BOOMI.
Oh, BOOMI.
Yes, BOOMI.
Okay.
So our mandate is to improve human health and strengthen health systems.
Emma.
It's just as simple as that.
Fantastic. But look, kings and queens, this is what we're facing. We have a pandemic. 5,000 girls were defiled in the year that was 2019 to 2021, according to a police report. And this is the most appalling figures that we've seen to date. Fathers, brothers, cousins, stepfathers are the leading perpetrators of child defilement and molestation within the nation that is the Republic of Botswana. And this is why we have to have these conversations. 743 children were raped in 2021 alone, according to Botswana Police Service. That is astonishing.
Definitely.
Whether you're a public servant or in the private sector, the gender-based violence conversation has to be had. We have to be having it when you're relaxed. We have to have it in the corporate boardroom. We have to have it on radio. We have to have it in the office, because whether we like it or not, the mental health, we know the happiness report is reflecting that Botswana are unhappy. We know that. Whether you like it or not, they say when an economic recession comes, marriages, the divorce rate goes up. We have an issue here, and it has to be discussed. And I'm inviting you on 3956962 to call in, share your experience. Let's have this conversation together. I don't think there's one better person to have this conversation, because we're all members of Botswana PTY Ltd. Tabile, let me ask you this question. What services do you guys provide for gender-based violence victims?
Okay, as Paul had mentioned before, BOOMI is what we call a clinical partner.
Okay.
So in collaboration with Ministry of Health, we provide technical support to the clinics. Mm-hmm. So as part of our clinical package post GBV, should I call it post GBV care, we provide already post-exposure prophylaxis, also known as PEP.
Okay.
We also provide STI screening and treatment. Mm-hmm. We also provide emergency contraceptives, also known as morning after pills,
Yes.
And then we also provide psychosocial support, like he had mentioned.
Yes.
Should the client with visible physical injuries, we also have to treat that. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question, and I'll throw it to both of you. Let me ask Paul this question. According to what I've read and understand, reporting these cases underreported, right? The reflection of the statistics is not the true reflection. Number two, Mike, also slight concern, Repol, is that the boy child doesn't report these cases. It's very difficult for a man to say, and I've had a show before where I interviewed a gentleman who had been unfortunately sexually molested and raped by his own biological father, and what that turned out into is that he got married and he was very violent sexually with his partner. So that is a trauma that's coming out. What is your take on how we can prevent these kind of things, Motomoton? I think the gender-based violence conversation is so multifaceted, and we've got to also talk about the underreporting of the boy child.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think you have correctly summed it up when you look at how we have left behind the boy child. And one of those things would be the cultural factors or influence. We tend to maybe sort of water down how strong the culture has an impact on how we live even in the modern day society. When boy children are being socialized, they are socialized into having that macho,
toxic
image.
Masculinity.
So that's how. That's one thing that would make them even to struggle to open up, starting from a very young age, and they grow up to be men struggling to come up because the society doesn't expect them to start being cry babies, and you start throwing those names at boys who open up and start interacting,
who are softer, who are in touch with their emotions, and are all just stared there, for example.
Exactly.
Yes.
So those are some of the things that we really need to go back to the drawing board and look at. I know when you started, we talked about the 16 days of activism.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's actually one of those strategies that we are going back to the communities. If you look at the campaign, it sort of involves sort of a community mobilization.
Yes, absolutely.
The community leaders, the church leaders, and even the parents and the community at large.
Powerful.
Yeah, such that they start understanding what GBV really is and how it affects the boy and child. And that would be really at the higher level or the community level.
Absolutely.
But at a very maybe individual level, we now we need now to start looking at our curriculum, like you said.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, what are we really teaching our children at schools? We know that most of the time, the children spend a lot of time at schools, and we only interact with them in the evening. So that environment at school provides a place where we can start teaching children on the male child on GBV. So those are some of the things that could be done. And of course, as a society, in the workplaces, we need to start having conversations on GBV.
Absolutely.
The same way we did with HIV. We started having HIV corners in almost every workplace. And education was being disseminated, and ultimately everyone started having a rough understanding of what HIV is. So the same way we need to start look at GBV in that context. We don't have to say Orenya in the workplace, Monaga Bisha in the workplace. No, we have to start having that conversation and reporting them like you are saying. There's a lot of underreporting like you are saying.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm okay with you on that one.
It's Scams FM Power to engage your world. 3956962. I would like to hear from Borre. I'm not denying the women. Kana lona ka leads. Halo politiki lale. 395. Hey, Swift. Madam Kragabadiri lana. Hey, my UDC. But we need to have that same energy when it comes to issues gender-based violence. Don't go away. Zeus is coming your way. He says, Are changing. But listen up. One moment, one shot on one day. Seize the moment and grab the deals you've been waiting for. Don't miss out and shop for all things you love for prices that you will never, ever, ever, ever see again, because there's only one Black Friday, the 25th of November, and it's, of course, Game Stores. Good morning.
le hatsela Botswana le thoka phetogo batho ba Botswana ba thoka phetogo gore le boela ke seriti sa lone gore le boela ke bolenya lone gore Botswana ende jwele rotsana ka jona bo ka rotse sebuba o nna le toto le mo go ba sa go itseng le ba sa ba itseng ba tota hela gore o wa le hatsi
Fasilina la rona ka ke bona ba ga rona ba tshela mo letlokong tlala kwa masimo kwa magaele di tropong ba tsheba gore re ba bala fela ka menwana go tsewa go sikana mo go feta fela go timilwe motswana letloko la ditiro ke selelo sa monana a mera utlwana a mera tusana ga se mabogo dinku fa batho ba itana re mo lenyoreng matamo a khadile dipotso di boditswe ka rambo di tlokegi mo politiki ba re fa di pato ba metlaka se kgaotswe batho go senyegi batho go tubegi lorato la madi satane go bui ruta ka disenyi bathami ba diting tshwarela setšhatlapi setswana sa mele sa bona ke a sa tlhapa ga re ipoke ke ipotsa ra ithata a re kwala dibuka a re bala dibuka motswana a itsosa a re motlela lefufu gane re ikitse sentle tšhaba ya dinaka re ka tshwara ka thata go sena yo setshwakga go sena yo makgakga go sena kgaogano re le bangwe re le tšhaba go sena boisemang ka rotlhe re le batho ka rotlhe re maemo botshelo a se seemo rotlhe re ba modimo
di kumo tuwa tselelo Esena puso matamo go bona khelelo Esena koro sitlala esena mafelelo Esena buka mosoboto ese polelo Esena kelelo di kumo tuwa tselelo Esena puso matamo go bona khelelo Esena koro sitlala esena mafelelo Esena buka mosoboto ese polelo Ara chele isa ara chenje ara chele isa ara chenje kana ka bontsho ba me mahumo from lo abi tsotsetse re di agileng dingwa tsa tla ka bati pelo tsa khwabarati mo gona le ene ga se wa baki le tsatsi le tsuba mafifinya lone ka situ city burn like moboki wa madia go sika skilly boleka ne metsi matamo go dry as silly re botsa mangreli re ka senka karabo thapelo mo star with the man on the spilly the form comedy LTC as blossom as lily leader we can say we saw it through the ugliest pretty but can only be mo buparedi mo gela la dipe atla mo tshwara sedi utlofa asik the answers to the potso tseno too and file thaba this much is true there's more to black and blue eme fano ka wena so what I speak is partly you o ka dikala di bale o dirala di kereke tsa rudisa ba ruti ba di gala ba ba okisa sena matsamo ya ba di baya go pefela ba re bone gore re mono fela ba bumi ba di koleke ba thoki ba di tshela ka kola ya metemana rarama se gompela le bana ba bana disa go ya bona go itsela Esena kelelo di kumo tuwa tselelo Esena uso matamo go bona khelelo Esena koro sitlala esena mafelelo Esena buka mosoboto ese polelo Esena kelelo di kumo tuwa tselelo.
It's Gabs FM Power to Engage your world. Nomadic teams up with Zeus. It's actually Zeus's number. It's Ara Cheng Cheng, and it's such an important conversation. Look, we need to unlearn so many things. You know, Nagela Swift, I know there's nothing wrong with crying, but I still struggle. I know I have to communicate and talk, but I still struggle. What more of you? What more of you? And this is why we have to have these conversations. Gender-based violence is not a 16-day campaign. It's a 365-day campaign. And I'm not coming here and speaking to you as if na Swifty perfect. I'm a perfect human being. Look, I've had my faults, and some of them are scary, but I get repent on this public platform. 11:32 is your time. Keep it locked. You're officially on the Stars and Stripes radio show, proudly brought to you by the U.S. Embassy.
The Stars and Stripes show is brought to you by the U.S. Embassy.
It's Gabs FM Power to Engage your world. Welcome back to the Stars and Stripes radio show, proudly brought to you by the U.S. Mission in partnership with Gabs FM. And today, the theme of today is gender-based violence. And we're talking it from an emotional standpoint, from a normal Botswana who walks down the streets. And I've got two foot soldiers on the ground who are here to engage with me. And of course, I'm speaking to Re Paul Mutsume, who's a CDC public health specialist. And of course, the beautiful Tabile Selema, who's representing Dreams and Prep Senior Case Manager, otherwise known as Bumi.
Yeah.
I said it correctly.
Bumi, yes.
Hey, but anyway, guys, let's have this conversation. And, you know, I always say the real radio happens off the microphone. And, you know, true story. I've had a lot of Borre come to me and say, look, you know, we need to capacitate our police force. We need to capacitate our police force to understand the sensitivity of gender-based violence, not only for women, but for men, both. If a woman has been molested or something has happened to them, some form of sexual violence, the psychology around that, the psychology around her body language, the psychology of the line of questioning is so important. It's something that you can take for granted, but you can make or break a case by just that, including the justice system. Whether we like it or not, the turnaround times on these cases is appalling.
Definitely.
It is appalling. A case it's about 6 years. Come on, we need to have, and this is why the constitutional review is also an important conversation, because we have to have these conversations to say, to to our government, to the accountability structures of Botswana Pty Ltd. We need a faster turnaround time on cases like this. Our police and capacitating. I know that the police, if I'm not mistaken, have opened up some form of wing to be able to accommodate gender-based violence issues. But we need to capacitate them. Whether it means the private sector comes in and says, look, I would like to train the Central Police Service from a psychological point of view on how to deal with cases, especially for Borre, because many men have been a laughing stock. You know, when you come and say, Samamang, my wife is doing this, my wife is doing that. And the unfortunate thing, wherever there's an action, there is a reaction. I am in no way, shape, or form trying to endorse violence. I'm just trying to have a sober conversation. What's your view on that, Tabi?
No, what she's saying is definitely something that we need to touch base on. It's like, should I say they're not capacitated to handle such issues, especially if it's a male, right? But I know that I don't know if it was the beginning of 2020, right around the COVID time, they did mention where they'll be introducing a special GBV unit.
Yes.
When the clients come, they can go to like a separate room. But the moment you mention, I'm here to report something that has to do with GBV, right, to talk about those issues. But I also know they now have the GBV focal persons within the precincts. I'm not sure in Gabs which specific precincts, police precincts kids having.
Okay.
I know where they have introduced something just to help tackle such issues, but for both males and females. Like you were saying, the issues of GBV, and then they become a laughing stock. It's something that we really need to talk about, not just on radio, like you're saying, on a nationwide,
everywhere. Muruti, please discuss these issues, okay? Let me ask you this. A part of our population is the LGBTQ community. And, I've also heard that amongst the LGBT community, there's also issues of gender-based violence, especially amongst the male side or component of that particular community. Those are areas that are we addressing as a society to say, look, batoba ke bana ba rona and balwa. Let me ask you this. Who is eligible to get, support or PEP? Are the key populations such as sex workers, LGBTQ also eligible for, support from your side?
Most definitely. It's something that was just recently introduced with the government establishments, government clinics, and hospitals.
Nice.
So they will probably be experiencing these things. Maybe I'm not going to get the same reception that I would get
of course,
like maybe a private entity, and so on and so forth. So of course, if I'm going to do away with somebody who is in need of PEP just because of their sexual orientation and who they decide to,
their human right.
Exactly, their human right.
Yes.
It's probably going to raise our muhari or whatever. So we try to, as much as we can, to give it to every single person. I've been sexually assaulted. I am supposed to give you PEP. I am supposed to treat you for STIs.
Yes.
I am supposed to provide you with post-GBV care, like I had mentioned.
Yes.
So because of just because you're part of the LGBTQ community. No, it's for everyone. That's the standard practice. Even lady policy health, they do cover that. Every single person, what I need help, you need to provide them with a service.
And this showed shared health, a strategy adopted by the Botswana government and the U.S. government to give you, the citizen of Botswana, an opportunity for your human rights. You are absolutely right. Repo, let me ask you this. In the event someone is raped or sodomized, especially within the LGBTQ community, where does this victim start seeking PEP services? Where do they go? Do they go to a clinic, a hospital? What do they do? Because this is a part of, like I say, our community that we sort of shy away from. We don't like to talk about. But whether we like it or not, these are our brothers and sisters. Now talk to me.
Yeah, thank you. Well, we'll call them the key populations. What are the sex workers and the LGBT community? So like Tabitha was saying, these are a group of people when you look at the proportions of HIV and GBV, they are disproportionately affected by HIV. Where the prevalence of HIV is high in this population, as well as prevalence of GBV is very high in this population. So we are giving them service in our public health facilities, irregardless of their sexual orientation or the practice. And also, just to add on to that, we are giving also PEP to even non-citizens. We don't discriminate based on whether a person is a Botswana or not a Botswana. Even if you are a foreigner, you get assistance. Especially
if you're a foreigner and you're illegally in this country, you still offer those services?
Yes.
Okay, yes. Fantastic.
Yeah. So this PEP can be provided in our public health facilities. That is your clinics and hospitals. Yeah, but you'll find that clinics that don't offer ARV services would not be having PEP. So in that case, a person would go to that clinic and then they'll be referred to a clinic that offers ARV services. Because PEP, post-exposure prophylaxis, is basically ARVs. So you need a person who's trained in providing ARVs to administer post-exposure prophylaxis. That is PEP.
Wow.
So what we advise, when someone experiences sodomy or defilement or rape, they should go to the nearest health facility. Why? Because PEP has to be administered within 1 hour to 4 hours.
Or within that window period?
Period. At most, within 72 hours. But it works best within that window, 1 hour to 4 hours. Why? Because the purpose here is to block HIV virus binding with the human cell. Okay. The infection take place.
Okay.
So the longer you wait, the more chances are that the virus now can attach to your cells and then start off the infection. So we know it is very important for a police, but that should not be the priority at that point in time. The point in time, prevention, HIV, and the person has to start at the hospital so that the thorough investigation has been done. And then after the investigation has been done, enrolling them on PEP, doing emergency contraceptive to prevent pregnancy, or to link them with the right referrals. They have to be done. And then that's when they can go to the police for to do those interrogations on the circumstances.
Yes.
I know one of the challenges in PEP. PEP has got its own eligibility criteria. It's not that everyone who's a rape is going to get PEP.
Okay.
Or sodomized.
Yes.
You have to be there has to be HIV testing as a screening test. So if a person has been found or is a victim but turns out to be HIV positive, you don't get PEP. They are been enrolled on ERT services or ARV drugs to continue.
But does that take into consideration the window period that of 1 to 4 hours and the 72-hour window period? Or it's very difficult to implement?
I don't know if I get your question very well.
Kure, you mentioned, and please, if you understand me, do you understand where I'm coming?
I do understand you.
Yeah, talk to me.
I think you didn't understand what he was saying. Basically, PEP works on people who are HIV negative. We can't give you PEP if you're HIV positive. It's a post-exposure prophylaxis.
I'm with you. I'm with you. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Fantastic. Well, it's Gabs FM, power to engage. Kings and Queens, thank you so much for choosing Gabs FM, the Stars and Stripes radio show, proudly brought to you by the U.S. Mission in partnership with Gabs FM. But listen up. I've got a message for you from Education USA office. We have extended the deadline for the 2023 Alumni Engagement Innovation Fund. Yes, you will have until January the 15th, 2023. Exchange alumni interested in participating in AEIF 2023 should submit proposals to Gabroni Grants at state.gov by 12 p.m. on Sunday, the 15th of January 2023. For more information, please visit the social media pages of the U.S. Embassy in Gaborone. Feel free to go online and find out more information. But I'm going to cross over into the question that is Ask the Charge. This is where we ask all your burning questions to the acting ambassador of the United States to the Republic of Botswana, Her Excellency Amanda Jacobson. And today, this is the question you had to ask. What is your biggest piece of advice for young women trying to make a difference in the world, especially our world that we so dearly love? This is what she had to say.
Honestly, I just want young people to read, period. Nonfiction, fiction, biographies, graphic novels, science fiction, romance, whatever. I'm so afraid that with the prevalence of smartphones that young people are addicted to social media instead of quality reading material. Books, newspapers, magazines, online articles, whatever. Right now I try to read 2 to 3 books a week, and I'm reading Neruda in the Park about a Dominican American family in New York City and Why We Swim, a nonfiction piece. I highly recommend both.
It's Gabs FM, powered to engage your world. Have you ever been on the Zoom platform and it lets you down? That's exactly what happened. Unfortunately, that was question from last week. But hey, it's called order and chaos, and that's what we call it on the radio waves. Kings and Queens, let's move along swiftly. Kings and Queens, do not change that down. Your time across the nation is 11:49, and we're talking gender-based violence. We're talking the importance of having these conversations. And please, our objective of this particular show is to highlight shared health and the relationship between the U.S. government and, of course, the BW government. It is so important that you have these conversations. On the other side of this, I'm going to speak to both my guests around speaking to the kids about sexual education, about issues related to gender-based violence and their opinions. And if you'd like to be a part of the show, feel free to call me on 395-6962. Good morning.
The Stars and Stripes show is brought to you by the U.S. Embassy.
It's Gabs FM, powered to engage your world. And of course, welcome to the Stars and Stripes show. This show is meant to highlight the bilateral relationship between the U.S. government and of course, the BW government. My words are running away with me, and I'm swallowing them along the way. But of course, I've got 2 phenomenal guests. People, let me tell you something. We've got to celebrate unsung heroes. And I'm a big fan of unsung heroes. People who are making a difference on the ground for social ills such as gender-based violence. And I've got Paul Motsome, who's the CDC public health specialist, and of course Tabile Silema, who's from Bumi and Dreams and Prep senior case manager. Let me ask you this. Paul, you're a father.
Yep.
Gender-based violence beyond your 9 to 5 is a topic that you are going to have to prepare bana ba gago for the future and their future, whether we like it or not. Bana ba rona walking into, and me and my wife, surprisingly, our children are walking into a very difficult world. Very difficult world, whether we like it or not. What advice would you have as a father to the nation?
Putting me on the spot.
Because it is your responsibility. And whether you like it or not, being a father to a girl child and a boy child, that's the reality they're walking into.
Yeah. No, well, I think one of the things still on what we need to look in as parents is the issue the violence that starts at home. It tends to be violent towards his siblings. Mm-hmm. And then we just say,
yes. Yes.
That's how, a child grows up knowing that violence can be tolerated. Mm-hmm. So that's one aspect that we need to start addressing in our homes. Mm. But most importantly, we need to start looking at I don't know if they're available in Botswana. Avenues where you can have start taking your children for those soft skills, all those skills that build character.
Wow.
Young one from a very young age.
Wow.
Things like leadership, being aware of their surroundings and not being self-centered and viewing the world in the dimension of masculinity.
Wow.
So those are some of the things they are not there being practiced socially in Botswana, but we used to have those kind of things in the past. Wow. Culturally. I understand. I understand. We used to have, when a child reaches a certain age, and back then, we need those kind of things to find a way of reviving them.
Wow.
Yeah, and start living them in our communities.
You're blessed. Thank you so much. Look, whether we like it or not, it's important for us to have these conversations. And I have been engaging the University of Botswana to say, how can we have a conversation around what I call indigenous governance?
Yeah.
Have we lost who we are as Botswana? And where is the middle ground where we can have the best of both worlds and bring it into the 21st century? So I like that. Let me ask you, Tabile, in your opinion, you're a young lady. Are you married or soon to be married, or one day will be married?
One day we'll be married.
One day will be married. One day you hope maybe, if you'd like to have your own family. And of course, you are still a member of this, what I call Botswana PTY Ltd. You've seen what is going on the ground. And it's painful.
It's very painful.
It's in black and white, it's painful. On the ground, it's painful. It's emotionally draining. Rightfully said in the beginning of the show, you said, Ghana, even going out, I need to be aware. Recently, my wife took a cab. She was going to a certain location, and the cab driver took the
wrong turn.
Exactly. She had to send me a WhatsApp live location, and I didn't even think about it twice. I had to move because at the end of the day, our society is not the same. What would you say to the nation as a member of our community?
Well, I'll just address everyone as a whole, not just women.
Yes.
I'll address the males, the females, the kids,
Yes.
From my experience, so I see all the cases within the clinics. We have children as young as 9 years old that are reporting rape, sexual assault. Mind you, sexual assault is not just, rape, sodomy, so to say.
Yes.
I don't have a better word for it. That's one, but
yes.
So these things, they do contribute to sexual assault. It's a form of GBV. So it ranges. When we intimate partner violence, you're being abused directly by So I can just say, you know what, don't shy away from talking about these conversations. We have multiple stakeholders within this issue at GBV. Please try to engage these people. I know what people try to say, hey, you will never forgive yourself if you go, if your case goes unreported.
Absolutely.
GBV, they can cause a lifelong trauma. PTSD can present itself at any point of at any point in stage of your life. So try to address it at an earlier stage. Talk about these things, and I guess everything shall be good. The more we have these conversations, the more we'll come up with a possible solution.
Well, it's Gabs FM, power to engage your world. We got to celebrate the unsung heroes. And in my opinion, both of you are doing a phenomenal job. On behalf of the U.S. government and the Botswana government, I'd like to thank you for pitching up every day to work. And I sincerely hope, psychologically, this job is not easy.
Definitely
psychologically. So I sincerely hope that Muhiri is taking good health care of you. And if not, you can call me on 395-6962. I've got control over these things. Kings and queens, this is what I've got to say. We've got to make and open doors for people, even the victimizers, the perpetrators, to come out and share their stories.
Yes.
Because if we do not create an environment where the guy who went to prison can come and try and redeem himself and reach out to say, look, I was guilty of doing 1, 2, 3. This is my experience. This is how you get out of it. We have to create that kind of environment. Kings and queens, we have to have to understand that prevention is better than cure. I believe within every bad man, there's a good man somewhere. I believe within every bad woman, there's a good woman somewhere. And if we together can come together and be a part of the human race, we can fight this battle together and we can win together. So, Botswana, please have the right conversations wherever you are. 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, proudly brought to you by the U.S. Mission in partnership with Gabs FM. That's the Stars and Stripes show. See you same time, same place next week. I go by the name King Swifty Swift, otherwise known as the prolific Bansola. Good morning.
Ukunzi. Power to engage your world is on 102.9 FM.
The Stars and Stripes show was brought to you by the U.S. Embassy.